Bonjour les amis, welcome to Tours, welcome to the Loire Valley. Bonjour, bienvenue. Welcome, welcome. Thank you for joining me today on a glorious March afternoon in Tours. We have had exceptional weather this week. Look at the sky, not a cloud in sight. And I thought I would start today in a bustling area, which is called La Place Jean Jaurès, a square named after socialist leader Jean Jaurès. We're going to walk around and I'm going to introduce you to the square. Bonjour friends, I see your messages. Hello, hello. If you'd like to see how the name is spelled, there it is up there on this beautiful building. And while I'm at it, I'm going to show you the place where we are, which is the Brasserie de l'Univers. It's one of the places where locals like to come in town. I spend a lot of time here. I've just enjoyed a nice refreshing drink. Bonjour friends, I see you. It's a little pale looking now because I've been pouring that limonade into it, but this is called a Diabolo fraise, which is limonade. You can see it here. So what the French call limonade is a little bit like Sprite. And then some strawberry syrup. It's a non-alcoholic beverage. It's extremely refreshing, and you keep pouring the lemonade as long as you have it, and then it becomes really light like this, but it's very, very good. Bonjour, bonjour les amis. I see your messages. Thank you for joining me today. Let me take one last sip of my drink, and then we'll get started. Bonjour, bonjour. I see everybody's up. All right. So, let's start walking. That is what we do. So first, before we go, I want to show you this area here. This is a very elegant part of town. You can see that these buildings are reminiscent of the Haussmann time, probably in Paris, or post-Haussmannian even. You see the elegant facades and lots of brasseries, les brasseries, just like in Paris, just like in many other cities in France. And it's a very busy afternoon. This is a popular part of town. You have more brasserie on the other side. Everybody's trying to cross the street right now, so we will do the same. I hope the sound is okay for you. I haven't asked before. It is a beautiful day, you're right. The tram, the buses come this way. It's a pretty big transportation hub here. All right, nobody's here, so I'm going to cross. I think we're safe. And another peek at this grand building you have here, which is our Hôtel de Ville or City Hall. Thank you for confirming the sound is good for you. Thank you. This is a magnificent building. I'm going to try and get a little closer later. We have also those two monumental fountains. Locals love those fountains. There's one here and there is one there. I hear some honking, which seems to indicate a wedding is on its way. Or maybe it's a demonstration, you never know. Bonjour, bonjour, thank you for joining me. So more brasseries on this side. Place Jean Jaurès, that's the name of the square. You can come here for an apéro late afternoon, throughout the day, in the morning for coffee. It's always pretty lively. Let's cross here while we can. There's pretty crazy traffic around this square. So if we had been here in the 17th century, oh boy, it is a wedding, I think. The honking. This is where I was sitting just earlier. La Brasserie de l'Univers. And you can see the interesting shape of this square. It's like a semicircle. You see how this side is rounded here. And then this big avenue here is Avenue de Gramont. It goes towards the southern sections of Tours and the Cher River. And on the other side here, it curves as well, though we're facing the sun here. So in the 17th century, we would have been sitting right outside the city walls. Tours, like Paris, had many generations of walls, and the last walls were erected in the 17th century. Eventually, in the 19th century, they took it down. They took the last walls down to turn because Tours was growing too fast. Let's hope the honking stops. This is one of the first major buildings that was erected here in 1840, the Palace of Justice. So this square, La Place Jean Jaurès, is also known to a lot of people as La Place du Palais, Palais for Palace of Justice. And those two fountains are beautiful as well. I can see they've done the spring planting. They're going around the square now. The honking is going to go away, fortunately. Great. We have a semi-demonstration on this side. It's pretty small now. I think it's over. I spotted some anti-vax messages, so I think it's the end of it. Let's see if I can cross safely. I think I can. Here we go. I want to come back here so you can enjoy the Palais, the Hôtel de Ville, the City Hall. You see how gorgeous this fountain is as well. So there's been some talk of creating a second tramway line, and the locals disagreed because they were going to have it cross the square, and one or possibly two of the fountains would have had to be removed. And there was huge opposition of locals, and so they're now thinking about it again, and who knows when the second tram line is going to happen. But locals sent a very clear message. They didn't want anybody to mess with the square and the fountains. Here is our tram. It was inaugurated about 9 years ago this summer. Very efficient mode of transportation. It goes very far out of the city, north and south, so it's pretty convenient. And so this Hôtel de Ville was built after the Palace of Justice, right at the turn. It was inaugurated at the turn of the 20th century during the Belle Époque. And at that point, the Second Empire was over. You may remember Napoleon III was defeated in 1870 against Prussia. And then the Republic came back. It was the Third Republic. And it was very important for the new government to send strong messages. So all the Hôtel de Villes, all the city halls that were built around France sent a pretty clear message that the Republic had overcome and was very powerful. Everything about this building, both outside and inside, is meant to impress, and it does. If you ever get a chance to visit the interior, some of the rooms they have there, the ceilings, it's like being in a smaller Versailles. Bonjour, merci monsieur. One of the demonstrators gave me some of their literature. I'll make sure to read that later. So like I said, right where I'm standing right now, you see this big boulevard here. There is another one on the other side here. This would have been roughly where the walls, the big city walls were. And back there would have been the countryside. Other communes or towns or villages, pretty much the countryside that were later incorporated into the city. The city was on this side. But the reason this area, this neighborhood really developed was the train station. Mid-19th century, 1846, the train arrives in Tours. The train station is right at the end of that block over there, very close to here. A big hotel opened, Hôtel de l'Univers, still one of the best in Tours. It's been recently remodeled, sits on this side. And that's when all these cafes and restaurants start popping up here. So it becomes a really elegant part of town. In those streets back there where I was sitting, you have the Printemps department store and shopping. So this is really one of the many, it seems that Tours has several hearts really. I've shown you the historic hearts in the old town before, but La Place Jean Jaurès is also very, very important to people here, and they like to come here a lot. So I wanted to start here to show you this area, which we haven't seen that much. I think the last time we were here was when they turned on the Christmas tree. The tree was right about where I'm standing right now, and that's the last time I showed you this area. So this beautiful boulevard on the right is called Boulevard Heurteloup. They have all sorts of celebrations there. You can see a big sign. There was a wine tasting event last weekend for the wines from the Bourgueil area that is really close to Tours. And it takes you to the train station. It's about a block away, like I was saying. Unfortunately, this boulevard was damaged during World War II, so I would say the architecture is probably not as uniform as the other boulevard, which sits over there, le Boulevard Béranger. It is lined with former hôtels particuliers, private mansions that popped up when the affluent crowd settled in this neighborhood. We also have a popular flower market twice a week along that boulevard. I haven't seen the full extent of the market yet because I think COVID has been here. But as far as I know, the flower market in Tours is almost as renowned as the Nice flower market, Cours-Saleya, or used to be at least. So I'm really anxiously waiting to see what it turns into. It's not as big, I think, as it was before COVID right now, but it's still fun to do that. Better peek at the Hôtel de Ville before we go on. The big red heart you see is for blood donors. They're trying to, it's a campaign they're running right now. And look at this, I mean, this is quite impressive. Do you see the size of the 4 statues holding the balcony? I'm gonna get closer if I can. I mean, look at the size of these guys. Crazy. François Sicard is a very well-known sculptor. We had quite a few artists here. François Sicard was one of the gentlemen who worked on the Hôtel de Ville. And of course, the architect was Victor Laloux, local son Victor Laloux, very well known. He did the facade of the beautiful train station. He did the Hôtel de Ville, and of course, he gave Tours the basilica that was erected at the end of the 19th century. Yes, it is beautiful weather, you're right. So my plan is to try and go up the Rue Nationale. We've only done it once before and it wasn't super crowded. It is very crowded, but the goal of this little event today is to share with you some spring vibes in my city and to show you what locals do on a Saturday afternoon, because it's now 4:15, when the weather is nice especially. So this is a historic street. I'm going to raise my arm. I'm very short. There you go. This is the Rue Nationale, once named the Rue Royale. It's always been an important street in Tours ever since it was built in the late 18th century. If you followed the street and kept going towards the north in this direction, you would eventually reach Paris. And that's the reason it was created in the 18th century, to connect Paris and Spain. And Tours had to fight hard to get this road here. All the cities wanted it. And from that day onwards, the entrance of the city was over there, and I'll take you there and show you. Old-timers I've talked to from Tours don't really care for the Rue Nationale as it is now, pedestrianized, just for the tram and bicycles. And they say that back in the day, 50, 60 years ago, there were cars everywhere, it was polluted, but it was also very lively in terms of independent shops and stores and cinemas on the side, and they think it looks a little cold now. But I think locals seem to enjoy it just fine the way it is. We have a branch of the Galerie Lafayette in town, and there it is. It's not the most elegant Galerie Lafayette store I've seen. I prefer the Printemps in Tours, in an Art Deco building, which is in the area we just came from. So here we are doing what locals do on a Saturday afternoon, and even on Sundays when a lot of these stores are closed, you'll see them walk up and down the street. It's a very safe street since it's for pedestrians only, and our beautiful tram is headed towards me. You can see it. Bonjour friends, thank you for joining me. Sharing some Saturday afternoon vibes on a beautiful Saturday in Tours. Look at the side of the tram, you will see some columns. You see? Black and white columns. This is the signature of the artist who helped design it. His name is Daniel Buren, and he's best known for the columns he created in the courtyard of the Palais Royal in Paris in the 1980s. So we are lucky to have a talented artist who designed the tram here. Bonjour! Bonjour, bonjour! See, it's very sleek and very efficient. The tram is handy because it takes you to the train station. It curves where I was sitting over there on the square, Place Jean Jaurès. It curves to the left and it reaches the train station in about 5 minutes. And then it comes back up this way in a straight line and takes you to the heart of town, the historic heart of town, which is why it's great to use the tram when you arrive in Tours at the train station. So lots of chain stores along the street. It's not my favorite shopping in town. I prefer the smaller streets with the independent boutiques. But it's lively. Good vibes. Bonjour, bonjour. Yes, I know, beautiful day. Look at the sky, right? No clouds. It's been like this all week. Now we know the rain is returning next week, so we're all out and about enjoying this. I've been working outside a lot this week with my books and notes. I was sitting at en terrasse, making the most of the weather while I could. So lots of chain stores you will see in other cities such as Paris, Toulouse, Bordeaux, Lyon, all the same stores roughly. We're going to walk past this red sign you all recognize, I'm sure. This is the logo of Monoprix. We have several in town. This is one of the largest ones. The cafe culture, what is the cafe culture like in Tours? Well, we have lots of terraces. So I'd say the cafe culture is pretty strong. People love their cafes here. Everybody has a favorite one or two. But we also have the new coffee shops emerging. We have a few of the coffee shops that people seem to favor now, especially visitors. So we have those as well. Cat's Coffee is a place where I often go. I share it on Instagram a lot. So we have both. Tours, as a reminder, is a medium-sized city for France, about 135-ish thousand people, and the metropolitan area is about 300,000. But the great thing about Tours is that it feels like a city, but it never feels as crowded as bigger cities do, like Lyon or Paris. It gets very quiet. You can find neighborhoods that are extremely quiet if you want to stay away from the crowds, which is sometimes harder to do in bigger cities. We have a few museums, we have cinemas, great libraries. We even have a library dedicated to gastronomy and food. Imagine that. So I'm strolling just like locals are doing, which is the point of this tour today. Share some French street vibes with you outside the big city of Paris and show you that life goes on everywhere. We have a lot of boulangerie. I cannot say that about all the cities I've visited in France, especially in downtown areas, but Tours seems to have an incredible number of very good boulangerie, pâtisserie. There are three just around my building, and they're all good. Some of them are even better than good. So notice I'm staying away from the crowds. Everybody, we're not wearing face masks anymore. The virus is still around. And bonjour friends, welcome. I see you're from all over today, which is wonderful. So if we had strolled around this street, once called the Rue Royale, the Royal Street, when it was inaugurated in the 18th century, we would have seen a lot of independent stores, or in the 1900s, lots of independent stores, lots of people, you know, the shopkeepers greeting their customers, people walking around, cars parking. It's a bit of a different scene now. You might say it's a little bit more sophisticated. There's the tram again. So there's a tip I learned when I got here. If you're ever in Tours and you want to figure out where the doors open and close, the stripes by Daniel Buren, the artist, that you have on the doors, you see those? they actually match the stripes on the ground. So this tells you exactly where the doors open and close. When there's a crowd, it's really handy. You can get your tickets from these machines. You can get a ticket, a pass for 10 trips. There's also a day pass, all sorts of passes. It's pretty affordable, efficient, and you can use the pass for all the buses as well. We even have an electric bus, a really cute little electric bus that's fun. Thank you for the stars. I really appreciate it. Thank you. You're very generous. As you know, these tours are tip supported. They're free. And in order to be free, they're tip supported. I have a PayPal virtual jar. The notes will be updated after the video replay comes up, so you'll be able to find that. And the stars work as well. I really appreciate your help in any way you can give it. Thank you. Sharing my work also helps. Signing up, subscribing to my YouTube channel. That's great if you can do that. And I have a mailing list that I'm hoping to send out before summer. You can sign up for that as well. Hello, Mexico. How are you? On the left here is part of Le Vieux Tour, the old part of the town, with one of the landmarks in town I've shown you before, La Tour Charlemagne, the Charlemagne Tower. On this side is the other historic heart of town, known as the Cathedral neighborhood. If you kept following this lovely street, which is called Rue de la Sellerie, it's lined with boutiques and shops and a great boulangerie at some point, you would reach the Museum of Fine Arts and our cathedral, Sangasian Cathedral. So I'm standing right at the intersection on the Rue Nationale, the national road, of the two historic hearts of Tours. The cathedral neighborhood where the city started in Gallo-Roman times on the right, and Le Vieux Tour over there on the left. And on that side is also Les Halles, the covered market area. Salut Rose! My friend Ross is here. Shouldn't you be in bed, Ross? It's got to be late in Australia. Thank you for staying up to do this. Maybe I can say a little hello while I'm walking. Wind blown. Quick little hello. Hello, friends. You see the street behind me. One thing I didn't show you is that the street was bombed pretty heavily in 1940 and it burned down. And the only section that was saved is where we came from. So the buildings over there are still from the 18th century. But in this section where I'm standing now, you can kind of see the architecture is not quite so remarkable. That's because the entire area burned down in 1940 after the Germans who were arriving in Tours at the start of the occupation sent some incendiary bombs, and the city, entire blocks of the city burned down. And Tours still wears the scars, still has the scars of that time, which is very touching, very moving actually as you walk around the streets. Mais il n'y a rien, il n'y a pas de mal. Bon après-midi. I think these were the young ladies who were sitting at the cafe next to me. They were friendly. So we're almost at the top of the street. I didn't rush it. I did it the way the locals do, les Tourangeaux and les Tourangelles. That's what locals are called. We just strolled along the Rue Nationale. We might have stopped to shop. Oh, and look, in the distance here you see the towers of Sangasian Cathedral, our beautiful old cathedral. Not as shiny and sparkling as other cathedrals in France, but if you visit it with the right person, hint, hint, there are lots of good stories to be told inside that venerable building. The tram, you can see it goes by quite often, every 8 minutes or so. This is really good turnout. Thank you for being here today. So tonight we're changing, we're turning our clocks forward tonight. We'll catch up with some of you. I'm not showing the store windows because they're not that interesting, they're chains. There is one here that I'm going to show you though. This is called La Boîte à Livres, and this is an independent bookstore. It's been here since 1946, maybe not in this exact same location, but it's an awesome store. There are several floors. There's a cafe It's one of my favorite places to come and look for books when I need them. So La Boîte à Livres, if you're looking for books in Tours. And then there's another one I've shared with you, which is a used bookstore called Le Bibliovore that sits on this side in the Cathedral neighborhood. Bonjour friends, some of you are still coming in. You'll have to watch the replay if you missed the beginning. We started behind me at the Place Jean Jaurès. We are now heading towards, let's see if anybody can guess where we're heading. We're going north, I've told you that already. What's ahead of us at the end of the street? Does anyone remember? Let's see. Anybody remembers what's ahead of us at the end of the street? Where does it end? I know there's a delay in the comments, so I'm waiting. La Loire, that's right, the Loire River, the mighty Loire. All right, so Hare Krishna, we have some music here. Okay, when the Germans sent their incendiary bombs for a couple of days, which probably felt like centuries to the people here, everything that was in this section, you can see those newer type buildings dating back to the 50s, all of that burned down. Most of that section we just walked burned down as well on the Rue Nationale. And for some reason, this old church that was once part of a massive abbey, Saint-Julien, survived. Only the stained glass windows were damaged. And it's a beautiful church. The train you saw, it is called the tram. That is the tram. Paris is at the end, yes, a long ways away from here. In fact, after the 18th century, when they opened this road and the bridge that follows it, if you had been, let's say if you were Honoré de Balzac, the famous writer who was from Tours originally and kept coming back from Paris to this region to write and find peace, you would have arrived on a coach pulled by horses from this direction across the bridge we're going to see now, and chances are you would have changed horses right here. This poor church after the French Revolution was turned into stables, and this is where the coaches would trade horses, so to speak. There was a hotel across the street and the stables worked with the hotel. Incredible. But in the 19th century the church was saved and they turned it into a parish church again. Quite impressive. Very, very old. Not much is left of the Romanesque time. Next to it is the former cloister. You go down a few stairs and you reach the cloister. And my favorite museum in Tours is there, dedicated to the Compagnons du Devoir. Super skilled craftsmen that we've had in France for a really long, long time. So this tramway stop is called Porte de Loire, the gate to the Loire. Very appropriate. And these newer looking buildings, which locals don't really care for, were inaugurated last summer. There are 2 hotels owned by the Hilton chain. Now Tours has a lot of smaller hotels, but they didn't have enough larger size hotels that could welcome groups and business conventions, so they've inaugurated those 2 hotels. Next to them are condos, and this entire area is being developed and will be developed in the next 2 years. You can see here, there's a fence, there's going to be some landscaping, and behind the old Saint-Julien church will be an area with gardens just where the former abbey grounds used to be. So in the next 2 years we're going to see some new things in this section, and I'm very excited to see that. All right, the wind's blowing. Hopefully the microphone's not picking up. We are very close to the Loire. So if you stay in those 2 hotels, which are fine if you're looking for larger rooms, air conditioning, they have their own restaurants. One is the Hilton Garden Inn, the other one is a Hampton Inn. You have rooms overlooking the Loire, and like we've just seen, the tram is right outside. So if you're looking for modern convenience, comfort, and a great central location, those 2 hotels might be for you. If not, we have a lot of smaller ones in the historic heart of town. I can recommend a few because I've visited them in person, and I've been sharing the information with my patrons. I have quite a few patrons coming into town over the next few weeks and months, which is very exciting. Okay, let's wait our turn and we're going to cross to the river. Yes, I know the architecture is very different. When you see what the square looked like in the 18th century, when they carved out the Rue Nationale and the bridge, and you see what happened, you know, as we know, it all burned down in 1940. When you see what they've done now, of course, it's very different. This used to be one of the most elegant squares in town. I have seen old documents where people mentioned this square and the elegant and beautiful city of Tours. So Tours was quite proud of this square at the time. And I guess they still are. Now, you guys remember the big Ferris wheel that was here on the square, July 14th last year, for the French national holiday? I actually got on it and live streamed from the Ferris wheel, if you recall. Like all the replays, it's on my YouTube channel, Friends with Vero. So these are the hotels I was telling you about. You see how modern they look? I think it's going to look better once the trees they just planted grow along the street. It's looking a little bit mineral right now. We need more trees. Ahead of us is the Tours Library. Now, the original library sat in one of the beautiful 18th century buildings that were here and that burned down from, you know, because of the German incendiary bombs. So after the war, they built this library. At the time, it was very modern. Yes, the Ferris wheel is only here for special occasions. So it was here for July 14th and it was here for Christmas. I got on it with my son for Christmas. It was a lot of fun. We had some beautiful weather when he was here, just like today, but colder. You could see miles and miles out from the Ferris wheel. That was special. Let's see. Here is the mighty Loire. And this bridge, Le Pont Wilson, it was nicknamed Le Pont Wilson after President Woodrow Wilson, because American troops were really involved here in Tours and in the Loire during World War I. But the name of the original name is Le Pont de Pierre, the stone bridge. It's been through a lot. It's been blown up, it's been destroyed, it's been rebuilt, but it's still here. And you can see people enjoying it, pedestrians, bikes, and of course the tram. So if you go straight over there, you reach Tours Nord, which is like a suburb of Tours. It's very coveted. There are some really nice neighborhoods like Saint-Cyr-sur-Loire on the other side of the Loire River. But the Loire is as wild as ever. It flooded this winter for a change. It's much lower now. You can see sandbanks, but look at the current. And this is a favorite place for locals to hang out, especially young people. I'm going to show you where they're setting up the guinguettes. I've shared some information on that on Facebook and Instagram this week. You know, there's this tradition, the guinguettes, those cafes, restaurants born a long time ago in Paris and the Île-de-France, and now they're everywhere in France, usually by rivers. These are places where you can eat and drink and dance or listen to some music. Tours has several, and the biggest one, Tours-sur-Loire, which is the biggest one, is usually right here. You've seen me there last year. And it will reopen at the beginning of May, and this week they've actually brought all this stuff, which wasn't here 2 or 3 weeks ago. So that's quite impressive. So in the summer, in the spring and summer and fall, early fall, you will have restaurants set up, a stage for music. I see the stage already, it's ready to go. And people just hanging out, and this is the kids area where people can leave their kids while they have a good time. And then people just sit out here. It is a beautiful city, and it shows really well in the sun, like most cities. So I will wrap up in a few minutes. We've been going for 35 minutes or so. I will stand on the bridge where we have a really nice view of the cathedral. I know the spots by now where you can get the best shots. So thank you for your support. Facebook stars, tips via my virtual tip jar on PayPal. I'm really appreciative of that. Now, as you know, I am a Rick Steves tour guide, and in the next few weeks I will be returning to the road. It will be a very busy spring. Whenever I'm in town, I've started running tours of my city, half-day tours of Tours, but I'm only running them for patrons right now. They get discounts on the tours because I'm too busy to run more and because I wanted them to try them out first, which is one of the rewards they get for supporting this business of mine. So I encourage you to look me up on Patreon. $10 a month gets you in at the most popular level, the Flanner level, lots of content each month. And it will continue while I'm traveling. They have a private Facebook group where I'll be live streaming and popping in and saying hello and sharing what I see during my travels. Across from us is a footbridge known as the Pascal San Sephora or the Pont de Fil. Dates back to the 19th century. It's a lovely place. You can also, of course, walk along the Loire River, lots of walking opportunities. You can do it on the paved sections here. You can cross that bridge over there. You can come back from here and you can even walk very close to the water. We've done it on a tour before. You can find that on YouTube as well. This is my favorite section of the Loire because you see the sandbanks and you see all the birds. We have seagulls, all sorts of birds here. It's beautiful. Woo, blowing. Hope I won't blow away. You can see it's not as crowded as along the Rue Nationale, which is good. I don't like crowds that much. All right, the cathedral is within reach almost. There it is, Sangasian Cathedral. This is the perfect spot because we have the cathedral and we have the library right here. Isn't that gorgeous? It's a lovely city. And I'm really enjoying it here. It'll be a nice place to come back to with my crazy touring schedule this spring and summer and fall. All right, I'll say goodbye. Whee! Look at the wind. Look at the wind. Thank you for joining me today, friends. It was lovely to see you, see your messages pop up. I will look at the messages you left. If I didn't answer your questions, I will later. Thank you for joining me today. Again, consider joining Friends with Vero on Patreon. It helps support my business. It encourages me to run more of these free virtual tours, and it will give you more peeks into my traveling life for sure over the next few months. À bientôt. Bon weekend à tous. I'll flip it around. Maybe not in the sun like this. Au revoir, friends. Enjoy your Saturday. Enjoy your weekend. And if you are in France, bon séjour. Enjoy your stay. À bientôt.